everyone. I'm here with the Witch's Bookshelf. I am going to be reviewing the Palm Reading Guide by Frank C. Clifford. It is a pretty quick read. I picked this up, I think, got it in September, I think, and I kind of got it on a whim. You know, when you order from Amazon and it says, you know, oh, just add a few more dollars and you can get free shipping. So I think I added this as a whim. I'm glad I did. I actually really like this book. It is, I'm just seeing if it's a new book. Let's see. I can't find the year. Why could I not find the year on this? 2019. So it is relatively new. It's a hardcover. I love the purple, first of all. Woo! I think that overall, I'm going to get into the more details about this book, but I think overall this is a good book if you know nothing about palm reading, if you were just looking to get into it, just get started. There's some really detailed books out there, but they can be a bit intimidating if you're just getting started. There's so much to learn with palm reading. I'm still learning all about it. But this one can really get you started with the basics so that you kind of know what to look for first, overall ideas. So I do think that this is a very handy book for beginners. And even for someone like me, I kind of consider myself like beginner to intermediate. I still learned things from this book and found it helpful. So I did like this book. Looking at the aesthetics, yes, it's very, very pretty. So I do like that. He also has like some really good illustrations in here. And I really like that as you get into things like the lines, he'll have like these examples and give you there's an illustrated example here so that you can clearly see what this person is talking about. So there's lots of them in here. So I think the illustrations really help. So design-wise, I think that this book is really well done. I also think it's organized very well. So the first part talks about some of the basics of the hand. So it talks about things like you're looking at the shape of the hand is one of the first things you look at. So different shapes are related to different elements. So they start by talking about that. So something really basic. And then they talk about what the fingers mean because the fingers are all associated with different planetary energy. And then he talks a little bit about the lines. So he gives you an overview of kind of, you know, some of the basic things that you're looking for, what they mean. He talks about what the difference is between the lifeline and the headline and the heart line, which are the three major lines in most people's hands, as well as some of the other lines like the fate line and health line and some of the minor lines. So he goes through that order, so it makes it like really easy to digest. I think the information is accurate and well done. It's not a difficult read, but it doesn't talk down to you either. He'll go through, for example, he'll start with something like the lifeline, and then he'll give you different examples of different kinds of lifelines because everybody's looks different. And he's got the wallflower, the drifter. He gives them all different names, the different ones. And then they'll just talk about variations as well. And then he goes into the headline, and they're all color-coded too. Like all the lifeline pages are green, all the headline ones are blue, and then the heartline ones are, of course, pink, right? And he gives them all these little names and talks about them. So he really walks you through it. And then they go through, there's the fate line as well. That's purple. Talks about that. And he talks about minor lines as well, which is in this kind of gold color. So I think overall this book is very well designed. It's laid out really well. The information I think is very well done, very accurate, but without being super duper overwhelming. So if you were just starting to get interested in palm reading, or if it's something you're like, hey, I want to know a little more about it, this book, I mean, I read it in an afternoon. It was a quick read, but it was informative. So they pack a lot of information into, how many pages is this? It's maybe 100 pages, this book. But, you know, I think to get you started, this is a pretty good book to get started with. So I would recommend this book. I'll give this book about a 4 out of 5. You know, if you're interested in getting into palm reading. I have another book that I really want to read about palm reading, and I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called, I can't remember offhand, but it is huge. It's like a big tome. And that can be intimidating. And I remember starting to read it and being like, wow, this is a lot of overwhelming information. So I think starting with something like this can give you a good overview before you dive into really like detailed type books like that. Now, the other books I'm reading for our Witchy Book Club in my Patreon coven, which is called the Spirit Rebel Coven, we are reading Sigil Witchery for the month of December by Laura Tempest Zakroff, I think it is. I apologize if I've butchered that. This book, I just started reading it, is fascinating. Again, it's not a huge book, but I've just finished reading the intro and the first chapter, which is about the history of mark making, and it is fascinating. So I will give a full review of this when this is done, but if you want to join in and read with us, you can totally join. Patreon thing is down there. But even if you're not and you just want to read along with this book, that's totally fine. Because yeah, I've enjoying this book so far. Like I said, I haven't finished it, but already just some of the history about mark making and symbols and how they, are used in different cultures has been fascinating and amazing. And then the other book I'm going to review when I finally finished it is Rob Halford's Confess, which I have talked about in the past. It's a really good book. As you can see, I'm about maybe halfway through it. I'm up to 1985 is where I am. So I've been slowly reading through this, but it's a very enjoyable read. It really feels like he's just chatting with you about his life and telling you these stories. But it's a really great book because he really talks about having to hide his sexuality all those years, how he was so afraid that it would come out that he was gay, and he was worried at the time. You got to remember it's the 80s and the heavy metal world. It's a very like, let's face it, it's a very male centric world, right? He was really worried that it would destroy the band and stuff. So it's very interesting, just like him, with all the personal stuff that he went through and his journey. And it's a very interesting book. Like, even if you're not into heavy metal, if you're interested in, anything to do with like LGBTQ type stories, this is a good one for sure. So I'm enjoying this book. And again, this is another one that I'll do a full review of when I have finished it. So let me know what you're reading. Have you read any of these books? What are your thoughts about them? I would love to hear. Again, thank you to all my patrons. As always, I always thank my patrons. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all of you. Big shout out to Marie, Nathan, and Nicole. And as always, to all of you, peace and love and love.